The portfolio case slips from my fingers, hitting the hardwood with a thud that echoes through Rebecca's kitchen. Time freezes as my brother-in-law Daniel's eyes dart to mine, widening with unmistakable guilt. We need to start making plans to get her out now that the business deal is coming through, Rebecca had just said, her voice carrying clearly from around the corner. 5 months. That's how long I've lived under their roof, paying rent that's barely below market value in this overpriced Denver suburb. Today should have marked my unofficial anniversary in their home instead. It marks the moment I discover the truth. Allison. Allison. Rebecca spins around, her hand flying to her throat. I didn't hear you come in. I should say something, but the betrayal lodges in my throat like a stone. My entire body feels hollow, as if someone has scooped out everything inside me and left only a thin shell standing in their pristine kitchen with its gleaming marble countertops and carefully arranged fruit bowl. The arrangement was never about helping family. It was a financial stopgap they're eager to end. You're home early, Daniel says, taking a small step backward, physically removing himself from whatever confrontation might follow. I remember that dinner back in March, the one where they'd presented this living arrangement as family helping family. Rebecca had reached across the table to squeeze my hand, saying, "What kind of sister would I be if I didn't help you get back on your feet after grad school?" What kind indeed. I'd been so grateful. Not just for the room, but for what I thought was genuine support. I'd paid my substantial rent on time every month. I'd cooked dinner 3 nights a week. I'd stayed late with their son Jeremy when their babysitter canceled. I'd scrubbed bathrooms and vacuumed stairs, and listened to Rebecca complain about clients who didn't appreciate her design expertise. The first warning sign had come last month, when I'd casually mentioned staying through winter. Rebecca's smile had tightened around the edges, her fingers tapping a rapid rhythm against her coffee mug. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves," she'd said. "Now it all makes sense." My hands steady as I bend to retrieve my fallen portfolio. 5 years of design school and a master's degree taught me precision under pressure. I straighten, meeting Rebecca's gaze directly. "I heard everything," I say, my voice calmer than I feel. "Let's talk honestly for once." Rebecca's cheeks flush, but she recovers quickly. We were just discussing future plans for the nursery. Her hand drifts to her stomach, though there's no visible pregnancy yet. "Rebecca." My tone stops her mid-sentence. "I heard you. The business deal came through, so now you don't need my rent money anymore." Daniel takes another step back, physically distancing himself from the conversation. It's what he always does: defer to Rebecca, retreat from conflict, become invisible when things get difficult. They're blood relatives, but in this moment, he might as well be a stranger. Rebecca's embarrassment transforms into righteous indignation, her posture stiffening. "You shouldn't eavesdrop in someone else's home, Allison." "Someone else's home. Not our home. Not your home, too. Someone else's Elyond." The words strike like a physical blow. I've been here 5 months, contributing in every way possible, yet I've always been just a visitor, an intruder, never family, despite the blood we share. "How long do I have?" I ask, clutching my portfolio closer. Inside are the preliminary sketches for the downtown contract that could make my career the one that requires me to be within commuting distance of the city center. "We can discuss details later," Rebecca says, suddenly all business. "We should sit down and work out a timeline that's fair to everyone." Fair. As if anything about this situation has ever been fair. I nod once, turning toward the stairs that lead to my temporary bedroom. Each step feels heavier than the last as the reality sinks in. I'm facing potential homelessness while working on the most important project of my budding career. Behind me, I hear Rebecca's whispered hiss to Daniel. This is exactly why we needed to plan this carefully. I keep climbing, my mind already racing through options, calculations, and possibilities. One thing is certain: I've always been a means to an end for them, never family. Just a convenient solution to a temporary problem. Well, now I have a problem of my own to solve. The next day, while they are outside, the glow of Rebecca's laptop screen illuminates my face as I stare at the email, my fingers frozen above the keyboard. I hadn't meant to open her account. The shared family computer had simply loaded her profile when I sat down to check my design deadlines. Now, I can't look away from what's right in front of me. Contract finalized. $175,000 commission blazes in the subject line. The timestamp shows 3 weeks ago. My stomach knots as I scroll through the congratulatory messages from their business partner. They hadn't been struggling financially for weeks, perhaps months. I grip the edge of the desk, a wave of nausea washing over me as I read further down the email thread. We need to discuss how to diplomatically handle the Allison situation now that we're back on solid ground, Rebecca had written. The pregnancy gives us the perfect reason without seeming callous. The perfect reason. As if I were a household item they no longer needed. I close the email and push away from the desk, my legs unsteady as I stand. For months, I've paid my rent, cooked their meals, cleaned their home, watched their child, all while believing I was helping family through a rough patch. The truth stings like winter air on bare skin. That evening, Rebecca sets the table with unusual precision, placing me in what I now recognize as the guest position farthest from Daniel at the head. She serves dinner standing, one hand frequently drifting to her slightly visible pregnancy bump whenever she makes a point. Daniel sits with his arms crossed, his gaze fixed on his plate. Daniel mentioned something that concerns me, Rebecca says, her voice deceptively casual as she serves the pot roast I'd prepared before leaving for work. He said you've been overly friendly with him. The accusation lands like a slap. I turn to Daniel, waiting for him to deny this absurdity. He avoids my eyes but offers a slight nod when I stare at him in shock. That's not true, I say, my voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through my body. And you know it. Rebecca places her hand on her stomach again, a gesture I now see for what it is, a shield against contradiction. We've also noticed some of the people you've had over when we weren't home. My fork clatters against my plate. What people? I haven't had a single visitor since I moved in. Jeremy mentioned strangers, Rebecca continues, referring to their 6-year-old son who's currently at a sleepover. Children don't lie about these things. The fabrications pile up like snowdrifts, too absurd to melt with logic. My breathing shallows as I realize what's happening. They're building a case against me, creating fictional infractions to justify pushing me out now that they no longer need my financial contribution. I think, Rebecca says, lowering herself into her chair with exaggerated care, you might be happier somewhere else, especially since we'll need your room for the baby very soon. Ever. The truth clicks into place. How soon? I ask, though I already know the answer won't be reasonable. 3 weeks should be plenty of time, Rebecca says, cutting her meat with precise movements. The painters are scheduled for the 4th. My heart thuds against my ribs. 3 weeks? In this housing market? Daniel clears his throat. We've checked online. There are plenty of places available. With 6 to 12-month waitlists. I counter, thinking of the dozens of rental applications I've already filled out, preparing for an eventual move. And first and last month's rent plus security deposits. Rebecca's smile doesn't reach her eyes. You've been working and living here rent-free for months. Surely you've saved enough. Rent-free? The words nearly choke me. I push back from the table and walk to my room, returning moments later with a folder containing bank statements. I place them in front of Rebecca, pointing to the highlighted monthly transfers. I've paid rent every month on time at the rate you set. Rebecca barely glances at the evidence. We hate to do this, but family comes first. Our growing family needs this space. Family comes first. The irony of her words burns in my chest as I gather the statements. My downtown client expects daily check-ins for the next 3 months. Moving farther away would mean hours of commuting or risking the biggest contract of my career. The false accusations have destroyed any trust between us, but homelessness would destroy everything I've worked for. As I return to my room that night, clutching financial records that prove my reliability, a question haunts me. Should I confront their lies head-on and risk immediate eviction, or quietly plan my exit while protecting my career? Standing up for truth might feel righteous, but homelessness would destroy everything I've worked for. What would you do when principles and practicality collide? I carefully slide the bank statements back into their folder, my mind churning with limited options and the bitter taste of betrayal. Rebecca doesn't waste a day. The next day, my phone buzzed with 3 separate calls from aunts and cousins before I even had my morning coffee. How could you leave your sister when she's expecting? How could you leave your sister? Aunt Margie's voice carries the weight of familial judgment. Rebecca told us you found a place closer to work. I thought family meant more to you. I gripped the phone tighter, staring out the kitchen window at Rebecca watering her petunias. She catches my eye and waves, the picture of innocence. It's not quite that simple, I say, but Aunt Margie has already launched into a lecture about sisterly obligations that stretches back to the Eisenhower administration. When I return from work that evening, 4 cardboard boxes sit stacked in the middle of my room. My design materials, carefully organized in portfolios, have been crammed inside, corners bent, and pages crinkled. My fabric samples are mixed with bathroom toiletries. "I started packing for you," Rebecca says, leaning against the doorframe. Her hand rests on her barely visible bump, just being helpful. I notice the small tear in the corner of my presentation board for tomorrow's client meeting. The damage is subtle but unmistakable. "Oh, did that get damaged?" Rebecca's voice carries artificial concern. Moving is always so chaotic. The next morning, I wake to a notification on my phone. Unable to connect to Wi-Fi. I try the password, nothing. After 3 failed attempts, I knock on their bedroom door. Daniel answers in his bathrobe, avoiding my eyes. "Changed the password yesterday. Security concerns. I can text it to you later today." My presentation is due in 3 hours. I gather my materials and leave early, hoping the coffee shop's internet will suffice for the final touches. That afternoon, Rebecca calls as I'm leaving work. "Just wanted to let you know the painters are coming Monday for your room." She pauses. "Our nursery, I mean." "That's 2 weeks before the deadline we agreed on," I remind her. "We found someone available sooner. Such good luck, don't you think?" The apartment hunt consumes my evenings. Each application results in the same response. We've selected another candidate. The 4th rejection comes with candid feedback over 80 applicants for a 1-bedroom apartment within my price range. My friend Cynthia's couch serves as temporary refuge until her boyfriend moves in unexpectedly. "Just for the weekend," she promises, but her eyes tell a different story. That night, I park behind the design studio, reclining my seat as far as it will go. Sleep comes in restless patches between street noises, and the discomfort of the gear shift pressing against my leg. The temperature drops to the low 40s, and my thin jacket provides little warmth. By morning, my fingers are too stiff to hold a pencil properly. My client notices the shadows under my eyes. "Are you sure you can meet our deadline, Allison?" The presentation seems unfinished. "Absolutely," I lie, though my design mock-ups lack the precision they normally contain. The following nights alternate between budget motels and my car. Each morning, I return to Rebecca and Daniel's house to shower and change, timing my arrival for when they've left for work. The simple act of using the bathroom in what was once my home now requires military-level planning. My stomach knots at the sound of a key in the lock, afraid Rebecca might return unexpectedly. I've started eating meals in my car, avoiding the kitchen altogether. The expense of takeout food drains my savings money that should be going toward a security deposit. The winter chill seeps through my car windows. When the temperature drops below freezing, I surrender more of my dwindling funds to another motel room. The pattern becomes unsustainable. My bank account shrinks while my anxiety expands, a perfect inverse relationship. "You look like hell," Ellen says when I stumble into the office. She's new to the design team, hired just 2 months ago. We've exchanged pleasantries but little else. I mumble something about insomnia while attempting to focus on the computer screen. Later, Ellen places a coffee on my desk and pulls up a chair. "My apartment has a pull-out couch," she says without preamble. "It's not fancy, but it's yours for as long as you need it." I start to reach for my wallet. "I can pay." "Number." Her hand covers mine, warm and firm. "I was homeless once too. This is how we break the cycle." The tears I've been holding back for weeks threaten to spill over, but I manage a nod of gratitude. Saturday arrives with Rebecca's baby shower. I consider skipping it, but doing so would only fuel more family speculation. I arrive bearing a gift-wrapped bassinet, playing my part in this charade. The living room overflows with family and friends. Presents pile high on the dining table, the same table where Rebecca had told me I wasn't family. "I want to thank Allison," Rebecca announces, glass of sparkling cider raised, "for understanding our need for family space and graciously moving out." 20 pairs of eyes turn my way. "Don't you want to say something about your new place?" The room grows quiet. I feel the weight of their expectation, the script I'm supposed to follow. Lie politely. Protect Rebecca's image. Maintain the fiction that this was all planned and amicable. Something shifts inside me, a quiet strength replacing the fear that's been my constant companion. I don't have a new place yet, I say, my voice steadier than I expected. The housing market is difficult, as you well know. The silence that follows carries a physical weight. My aunt's wineglass halts midway to her lips. My mother's smile freezes. Rebecca's face flushes crimson. In that moment of uncomfortable truth, I realize I don't need to protect Rebecca's image at the cost of my own truth. The revelation doesn't solve my housing crisis, but it loosens something tight around my chest, the first full breath I've taken in weeks. 3 days later, Ellen introduces me to her landlord, an elderly woman who owns several small properties on the edge of Denver. It's basically a shoebox, Ellen warns as we drive to see the studio apartment. But it's clean and the rent is reasonable. Along the way, Ellen shares her own story, how her brother stole her inheritance after their parents died, leaving her homeless during her final year of college. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, she says, making a sharp turn. Sometimes family is just who shows up when everyone else walks away. A week later, after careful consideration, the studio apartment is indeed tiny, barely room for a bed and small table. But the windows face east, perfect morning light for drawing. The landlord, impressed by Ellen's recommendation, waives the security deposit. You can move in tomorrow, she says, handing me the keys. First month's rent due next week. That evening, Ellen's friends arrive with housewarming gifts, a futon from someone's guest room, mismatched dishes, a small desk rescued from a corporate office renovation. By midnight, the tiny space resembles a home. My home. I hang my single print, a vintage Denver skyline, on the wall above the desk. It's not much, but it's mine. Each night, I document every interaction with Rebecca and Daniel, every false accusation, every small cruelty. The record grows, a chronicle of truth. 13 months later, the phone rings. Rebecca's number flashes on the screen, the first contact since I moved out. I stare at it, remembering the girl who slept in her car, afraid and alone. That girl no longer exists. I answer the call. Hello, Rebecca. Allison. Her voice lacks its usual confidence. How are you? I'm doing well, working on a new restaurant design. I keep my tone neutral, neither friendly nor cold, professional. The line goes quiet for several seconds. That's good. Another pause. I wasn't sure you'd answer. I wait, saying nothing. The space between us fills with unspoken history. We've hit a rough patch. Rebecca finally continues, her composed facade cracking. The business collapsed. The house. We lost the house last month. My fingers tighten around the phone. For a moment, I remember sitting in my car in February, the windows fogging with my breath as I tried to sleep, my toes numb with cold. Where are you staying now? I ask, my voice steady. We're in a motel. Rebecca's voice breaks. Just temporarily. The kids. She stops, composes herself. We have 2 now, Jeremy and little Sophia. She's 4 months old. I jot down notes on my sketch pad. 2 children, no home, business failed. I approach this conversation like a design problem. Assess the situation, identify resources, determine options. How long can you stay at the motel? I ask. 3 more days. Maybe 5 if Daniel picks up some extra work. Her voice grows desperate as I remain measured rather than immediately offering help. We've applied for apartments, but with the business bankruptcy on our record. I nod, though she can't see me. The Denver housing market hasn't become any more forgiving in the past year. The children shouldn't suffer for adult problems, Rebecca says, her voice taking on a familiar, persuasive tone. They're innocent in all this. The statement hits me like a physical blow. I close my eyes and see myself curled up in the back seat of my Honda, shivering under a thin blanket, the January wind whistling through a window that wouldn't fully close. I had been innocent too. I understand children shouldn't suffer. I reply evenly. No one should. Look, I know things weren't perfect when you lived with us. Rebecca continues. We weren't at our best back then, but it wasn't that serious. Everyone goes through rough patches. Wasn't that serious? The dismissal solidifies something in me. I remember the boxes of my belongings stacked haphazardly in the hallway, design materials damaged beyond repair. I remember Daniel changing the Wi-Fi password without telling me, claiming security concerns when I needed to submit client work. Rebecca? I say carefully. What exactly are you asking me for? She hesitates. We need somewhere to stay, just until we get back on our feet. A month, maybe 2. Her voice drops to a whisper. Blood is thicker than water, Allie. We're family. Family. The word that once would have compelled me to open my doors without question now rings hollow. Rebecca still sees me only as a resource, not as a person who was vulnerable and was hurt. As Rebecca's voice broke with tears, I felt a momentary urge to rescue them. Should I open my home to the very people who had left me homeless, or was maintaining my hard-won boundaries the healthier choice for everyone? Let me think about this and call you back, I say, ending the call before emotion can cloud my judgment. I immediately dial Ellen. Her voice grounds me, warm and familiar. They lost everything, I explain, pacing my small apartment. They want to stay with me. And how do you feel about that? Ellen asks, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. Conflicted. They're in trouble, but I trail off, looking around my studio apartment, my sanctuary. My hard-won peace. Remember where you were a year ago, Ellen says gently. Remember how far you've come. Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. We spend the next hour researching family shelters and housing assistance programs in Denver. Ellen emails me links while I compile information on rental assistance, food banks, and emergency housing options. This is genuinely helpful, Ellen reassures me. More helpful than sacrificing your well-being. By midnight, I've created a comprehensive document of resources. It's the kind of help I wish someone had given me, practical, thorough, respectful of their agency. My phone rings again just as I'm preparing for bed. Daniel this time, not Rebecca. Allison, I need to tell you something. His voice sounds different, weary, but somehow more present than I remember. Those things Rebecca said about you, when you were living with us. About being inappropriate with me. He pauses. They weren't true. None of it was true. I sit on the edge of my bed, stunned by this admission 13 months too late. Why are you telling me this now? I ask. Because we need your help, he admits. But you deserve the truth first. After we hang up, I check my email to find a message from my mother. Word of Rebecca and Daniel's financial collapse has spread through the family. The subject line reads, "We need to talk about your sister." I close my laptop and look around my small apartment, the space that's mine alone. Tomorrow I'll call Rebecca with resources instead of refuge. Tonight, I'll sleep peacefully in the home I've created for myself. 2 days later, the sharp knock at my door comes just after 7. No text, no warning call, just 3 rapid taps that echo through my studio apartment like gunshots. I'm halfway through dinner, a simple bowl of pasta at my fold-down table, when I hear my father's voice through the door. Allison? It's Dad and Mom. We need to talk. My stomach tightens as I open the door. They stand shoulder to shoulder in the narrow hallway, Mom's fingers working the clasp of her purse, open and closed with nervous energy. Dad's usual confident posture is noticeably diminished, his shoulders slightly hunched. Can we come in? Mom asks, her eyes already darting past me to assess my living situation. I step aside, gesturing them into my home, all 400 square feet of it, the bed that doubles as my couch, the kitchenette, with exactly 2 feet of counter space, the drawing table where I create the designs that have slowly rebuilt my life. Dad clears his throat. We've spoken with Rebecca and Daniel. They're in a real bind, honey. They need somewhere to stay, Mom adds, her voice dropping to that soft, persuasive tone she uses when she wants something without having to directly ask. She's your sister, and those are your niece and nephew we're talking about. I say nothing. Just let the silence fill the room until Dad continues. Just for a month or 2 until they find something. He offers, as if this compromise is reasonable. Family needs to stick together during hard times. Mom's fingers finally still on her purse. If you can't find it in your heart to help them, I don't know how we can all gather for holidays anymore. The tension would be unbearable. The threat hangs in the air between us. I take a deep breath and walk to my desk, retrieving a folder I'd hoped I wouldn't need to share. Please, sit down, I say, gesturing to my bed and the single chair by my desk. I remain standing. I hand them each a stapled packet. This is a comprehensive list of housing assistance programs in Denver. Section 8, Vouchers, Family Shelters with Private Rooms. Rental Assistance Foundations, Churches that help with security deposits. I point to the highlighted sections. I've marked the ones that specialize in families with young children. My mother stares at the papers as if they're written in a foreign language. But you have space here. I don't, actually, I interrupt quietly. This apartment is barely big enough for me, but that's not really the point. is it? I sit on the edge of my desk, looking at the people who raised me. When Rebecca and Daniel pushed me out of their home, I spent nights sleeping in my car. In February, the temperature dropped to 19 degrees. My father's face pales. You never told us that. Would you have believed me over Rebecca? She told everyone I was leaving by choice. My voice remains steady, but my hands tremble slightly. While I was looking for safe places to park overnight, they were in their 4-bedroom house with the heated floors Rebecca was so proud of installing. Mom looks down at the resource list again, her fingers tracing over the names of organizations. I rebuilt my life without family support, I continue. I found housing, kept my job, and created a new support network. They can do the same with the resources I'm offering. I tap the papers in their hands. Everything they need is right there. 2 weeks later, we all sit around my parents' dining room table, the first family dinner since Rebecca and Daniel's financial collapse. The tension is thick enough to cut with the butter knife beside my plate. Rebecca wears the mantle of victimhood like a designer dress, tailored perfectly to her frame. It's just hard to understand, she says, looking directly at our mother. Allison has space, but she won't share with family in need, after everything we did for her. That's my cue. I rise from my chair, retrieving folders from my bag. With deliberate calm, I distribute copies to everyone at the table. This is a timeline, I explain, remaining standing while they all sit with papers in hand. From the day I moved in with Rebecca and Daniel to the day I was forced out. It includes dates, conversations, and actions. You'll find my rent payments documented on page 2. The accusations Rebecca made against me are on page 3, along with witness statements from people who were actually in their home during that time. Rebecca's face flushes. This is ridiculous. You're trying to make us look... It's accurate. Daniel's quiet voice cuts through his wife's protest. Everything she wrote happened exactly that way. My mother's hand covers her mouth as she reads, her eyes widening at certain passages. Dad flips through the pages with increasing discomfort. I don't share this to hurt anyone, I say, meeting each of their eyes in turn. But I can't allow the story to be rewritten. I've learned something important this past year. I take a deep breath. I've found that true family doesn't have to share blood, it shares respect, honesty, and support. In the weeks that follow, I hear through Ellen that Rebecca and Daniel applied for housing through one of the programs I recommended. They qualified for emergency assistance based on having young children. The relationship with my parents hangs in uncertain territory, tense phone calls, awkward text messages, neither fully estranged nor truly reconciled. Then one ordinary Tuesday, I find an envelope in my mailbox with my mother's distinctive handwriting across the front. Inside is a single sheet of stationery, folded precisely in thirds. I hold it, unopened, wondering what bridges can be rebuilt, and which ones should remain in ashes. Sunlight streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my condominium, casting golden patterns across the hardwood floors I selected myself. 6 months after purchasing this place, I still catch myself pausing to absorb the reality that these walls, this space, this sanctuary belongs entirely to me. The nameplate on my desk catches the light. Allison Hartwell Designs, building beauty from blank slates. I run my fingers across the engraved letters, remembering sleeping in my car, wondering if my career would survive. Now my downtown office sits just 10 minutes away, and my client list grows monthly. Throughout the condo, framed photos tell the story of my chosen family. Ellen laughing during our hiking trip to Boulder, our impromptu Thanksgiving dinner when 4 of us crammed around my tiny table. The day my design for the Westbrook Hotel lobby was unveiled, with Ellen and our friends cheering in the background. Not a single photo shows Rebecca or Daniel. I adjust the last centerpiece as the doorbell rings. My first real housewarming party. Not in someone else's home, not in a cramped studio apartment, but in a space I designed to reflect every aspect of who I've become. This place is absolutely gorgeous, Ellen says, stepping inside with a bottle of champagne. Others follow colleagues, friends, neighbors, all people who showed up when it mattered. You've created something spectacular here. The afternoon unfolds with laughter and conversation flowing as freely as the wine. So different from those tense dinners at Rebecca and Daniel's, where I constantly calculated how to appear grateful enough, helpful enough, invisible enough. A toast, calls out Jackson from the design firm. To Allison and her incredible new home. Glasses rise, but Ellen steps forward. If I may, she says, her voice softening, I want to toast something beyond these beautiful walls. She turns to face me directly. To Allison's resilience. When I met you, you were sleeping in your car and still showing up to work with brilliant designs. You never broke, never compromised your integrity, never stopped believing in your worth. My eyes dampen as Ellen continues. You taught me that family isn't defined by blood but by loyalty and truth. You've built more than a home here. You've built a life that honors who you truly are. The words sink into my chest, warming places that once felt permanently frozen. Later, after the last guest leaves, my phone buzzes with a text from my mother, confirming our coffee meeting tomorrow. We've been carefully rebuilding our relationship, one conversation at a time. The cafe we meet at sits halfway between our homes' neutral territory. My mother arrives first, already nursing a cup of tea, the timeline document I created over a year ago spread on the table before her. The edges are worn, the creases deep from repeated folding and unfolding. I read it again last night, she says without preamble. I think I understand a little more each time. I order my coffee and sit across from her. Understanding is all I ever wanted. I should have seen it sooner. She admits, carefully refolding the document. Your father and I were so conditioned to believe Rebecca's version of events. She was always so convincing. We talk for nearly an hour, the conversation easier than it's been in months. As we prepare to leave, she mentions Thanksgiving, still 3 months away. We'd love to have you, of course, she says. And Ellen too, if she'd like to come. Any of your friends, really. The house gets too quiet with just your father and me. The invitation sits between us, not a demand, not an obligation, but a genuine opening. Driving home, I pass Rebecca and Daniel's old house. A young couple lives there now with a toddler who rides his tricycle on the same driveway where I once unloaded groceries, believing I belonged. I feel no pull, no longing, no pain, just the peaceful acknowledgement of a closed chapter. As I drive past what was once a place of such betrayal, I wonder whether healing means rebuilding broken relationships, or simply making peace with their absence in our lives. Sometimes the strongest family ties are the ones we create ourselves. What would you choose? Working to repair broken blood bonds, or investing in the chosen family who proved their loyalty? I turn onto my street, toward my home, toward my foundation. Either way, the choice is finally, completely mine. My tires crunch on the gravel as I pull up to High Ridge Retreat, the sound echoing through the silent mountain air. The 7-hour drive has left my back stiff and my eyes burning. 3 months of overtime shifts at the warehouse blur together in my memory all those extra hours spent to afford this weekend. The cabin stands dark against the fading twilight. No welcoming lights, no cars parked in the circular drive, just silence. Something cold settles in my stomach as I step out of my Honda. The mountain view stretches before jagged peaks painted gold and purple in the setting sun, pine trees swaying in the gentle breeze. It should take my breath away. Instead, I can only focus on the empty porch where my family should be waiting. Hello? I call out, my voice small against the vastness of the mountains. Graham? Mom? Dad? Nothing but the whisper of wind through the pines answers me. I climb the steps to the porch, my overnight bag suddenly heavy on my shoulder. The windows are dark. I cup my hands against the glass and peer inside. No luggage by the door, no jackets thrown over chairs. No sign that anyone has been here at all. My hands start to tremble as I dig through my purse for my phone. The screen glows bright in the growing darkness as I pull up Graham's number. Each ring stretches into eternity until his voice finally answers, casual and unconcerned. Hey, what's up? Graham. I say, my voice steadier than I feel. I'm at the cabin. Where is everyone? A pause, then a laugh that sends ice through my veins. Oh, we went last weekend. Thought you couldn't make it. My knees weaken. I sink onto the cold wooden steps of the porch, clutching the phone tighter. What do you mean last weekend? I booked it for today. I sent the text with all the details Friday, 4 p.m. I've had this planned for months. Well, something must have gotten mixed up. Graham says, his voice still light. It was great, though. We've got photos. Dad caught a huge trout. Mom tried the hot tub for the first time. The hot tub. The one I paid extra for because Mom had mentioned her arthritis was acting up again. I sit in stunned silence, staring at the empty cabin that should have been filled with my family, with laughter, with the dinner I'd arranged as a surprise. Renata? You still there? Graham asks. Yeah. The word comes out hollow. I'm still here. Sorry about the mix-up. Next time, maybe be clearer about the dates. The call ends, and I'm left alone on the porch with the mountain darkness settling around me. My mind rewinds to 6 weeks ago, working late at the warehouse, using my lunch break to call the rental company. The $3,100 charge appearing on my credit card statement, cabin rental, hot tub fee, and the surprise catered dinner I'd arranged for Saturday night. I remember typing out the group text with careful precision. Friday, 4 p.m., High Ridge Cabin, we all need this. And the immediate responses. Mom, so looking forward to it. Dad, finally some fishing time. Graham, I'll bring the beer. Delaney, can't wait, thanks Renata. My quiet pride at being able to give them this a beautiful weekend away from the stress of everyday life. A chance to be together, to reconnect, to be seen. With numb fingers, I open my banking app. I need to check something, though I already know what I'll find. I scroll through recent transactions and there it is. A $1,050 charge from High Ridge ATV Tours dated last weekend. The card number listed is my old secondary card, the one I'd given Graham for emergencies only. My hand trembles as I zoom in on the transaction date. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mix-up about dates. They went without me. On my dime. A memory surfaces, sharp and clear. Mom's birthday last year. I'd worked a double shift to get the day off. Brought her favorite cake from the bakery across town. When I arrived, dinner was already halfway over. No one noticed when I slipped into my usual seat at the table. Graham was telling a story about his latest promotion, and everyone hung on his every word. Something shifts inside me as the pieces fall into place. The cabin's empty silence echoes the hollow space in my chest where family should be. They don't see me at all, I whisper to the mountains. I stand, brushing off my jeans with hands that have stopped trembling. With deliberate movements, I walk back to my car, retrieve my laptop bag, and return to the porch. The screen glows blue in the darkness as I open it. It's time to see exactly what else I've been paying for. The motel carpet scratches against my bare feet as I spread bank statements across the bed 2 hours later. The roadside rest isn't much. Water stains bloom across the ceiling and the heater rattles like it might give up any minute, but it's better than spending the night in an empty cabin built for family warmth. My laptop screen casts a blue glow across the papers. Outside, the wind whistles through pine trees, a lonely sound that matches the hollow feeling in my chest. I've been at this for hours, tracing a pattern I should have seen years ago. I create a new spreadsheet tab labeled Financial Support, Family. The column headers stare back at me. Date, amount, recipient, purpose, repaid? My fingers hover over the keyboard before I type the first entry. The 14th of March, 2020, $950. Graham, due attorney fees. No. I remember the phone call. Graham's voice thick with false contrition as he explained how he couldn't afford a decent lawyer, how his record would be ruined, how he might lose his job. I had transferred the money before we hung up. The entries multiply as I dig deeper. The 3rd of September, 2021, $1,800. Delaney, emergency root canal and crown. No. The 17th of January, 2022, $1,400. Parents, water heater replacement. No. The list grows longer. Birthday dinners I hosted, Christmas gifts that stretched my credit card to its limit, the loans that were never mentioned again, the airline tickets I bought when Mom said she missed Delaney. My throat tightens as the total at the bottom of the spreadsheet climbs. $5,000, $8,000, $12,000. I sit back, blinking at the final number that glows on my screen. $14,357. More than $14,000 over 5 years. Nearly $3,000 a year given to people who went on a vacation without me on my dime. A memory surfaces, sharp and clear as broken glass. Last Thanksgiving, I had cooked for 3 days straight in my apartment. Turkey, stuffing, sweet potato casserole, 3 different pies. Packed it all carefully in insulated containers for the 3-hour drive to my parents' house. I was setting up in the kitchen while everyone gathered in the living room. Their voices carried, unaware I could hear every word. Think Renata brought that cranberry stuff again? Delaney asked. Probably. She's got no hobbies, just a debit card. Graham's voice, followed by laughter. Well, at least she's useful. More laughter. Then my father's voice. She does make a good pie. My mother. She tries so hard, bless her heart. I remember freezing, the serving spoon suspended above the sweet potatoes. How the breath had caught in my lungs. How I forced my face into a smile when I carried the food to the table minutes later. I had buried that memory until now. My phone buzzes on the bedside table. Margaret's name lights up the screen. I hesitate before answering. Hey, I say, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. Are you okay? You never called back after your drive up to the cabin. Margaret, my closest friend for 15 years. The one who helped me plan this weekend getaway, who encouraged me to splurge on the hot tub package for Mom's arthritis. They weren't there, I tell her. The words come out flat. They went last weekend, without me, used my emergency card for ATV tours. A pause. Then, honey, I've watched this for years. Not surprise, not shock, just quiet confirmation. Something breaks inside me. The tears come suddenly, hot and unstoppable. I thought if I gave enough, they'd see me. I whisper. Margaret's voice is gentle but firm. What if you stopped giving? The question hangs in the air. I've never considered it before, the possibility of simply stopping. The thought is both terrifying and strangely liberating. After we hang up, I open my text messages. I rarely look back at old conversations, but tonight I scroll through the family group chat, then the private messages between my siblings. There it is. A conversation from 3 weeks ago that I wasn't included in. Graham, need $300 for this weekend. Can you spot me? Delaney, broke until payday. Ask Renata, she'll cover it like always. Graham, already using her card for the ATVs. She won't notice the extra charge, she never checks. Delaney, must be nice to have no life and all that overtime money. The phone trembles in my hand. I feel something unfamiliar building in my chest, thought and fierce. I recognize it after a moment. Rage. Pure, undiluted rage. With steady fingers, I dial the customer service number on the back of my credit card. Fraud department, please, I say when the automated system asks for my selection. A woman answers, her voice professional. Fraud department, this is Jennifer. How may I assist you today? I take a deep breath. I need to report unauthorized charges on my account. I spend the next 40 minutes providing details, card numbers, dates, amounts, transaction IDs. All the while, I'm taking screenshots of text messages, forwarding emails, organizing my evidence with the same methodical precision I bring to my job at the warehouse. Ms. Harris, Jennifer says, her voice softening. Based on the information you've provided, this appears to be deliberate fraud. Yes, I reply, my voice steady for the first time today. I believe it is. After the call ends, I sit in silence for several minutes. Then I open my laptop again and book the motel room for a second night. Whatever comes next, I won't be running home tonight. The path forward is still unclear, but one thing has crystallized in my mind. I am done being invisible. My phone vibrates against the motel nightstand at 7:18 a.m. next morning. I stare at the ceiling, counting the water stains while it buzzes 5 times before falling silent. The quiet lasts exactly 43 seconds before it starts again. I roll over and squint at the screen. Mom. Again. 12 missed calls since dawn. 4 from Mom, 5 from Graham, 3 from Delaney. I silence the ringer and push myself upright, feeling the scratch of cheap sheets against my legs. The voicemail notification blinks. I press play and hold the phone slightly away from my ear. Renata, it's Mom. Are you still coming for Sunday dinner? Your father wants pot roast and you know how he gets when we change the menu. Call me back. Not a word about the cabin. Not a single question about where I spent the night or if I'm okay. Just pot roast and expectations. My phone pings with a text from Delaney. Can you pick up my prescription on your way? I'll pay you back. I actually laugh out loud, the sound harsh in the empty room. 3 months ago, I would have driven across town, paid the $58.75 for her migraine medication, and forgotten about it by nightfall. The familiar script. Of course, don't worry about it. Today, I type, no. I press send before I can change my mind. My finger hovers over the screen, waiting for the guilt to flood in. Instead, I feel something unfamiliar, a lightness, as if I've set down a heavy suitcase I've been carrying for years. My email notification chimes. Graham's name appears with the subject line, "Business Opportunity Investors Needed." I delete it without reading. The bank fraud department opens at 9. I shower, dress, and pack my overnight bag methodically. The folder of financial records sits on the passenger seat as I drive across town. At 9:30, I am at the office. Miss Harris? The investigator is a woman about my age, with silver-streaked hair pulled into a neat bun. Her nameplate reads Valerie Winters. I've reviewed the documentation you submitted online. Please, have a seat. I unzip my folder and begin laying out the evidence. Bank statements, screenshots of text messages, credit card receipts, all organized by date, highlighted and annotated. This is, she pauses, eyes widening slightly as she flips through the pages. This is extraordinarily thorough, Miss Harris. I keep records, I say simply. Most family fraud victims struggle to come forward, she says, her voice gentle. They worry about family loyalty, about what others will think. The documentation is usually emotional, scattered. I meet her eyes. I'm not most victims anymore. Something shifts in her expression, a flash of recognition, maybe respect. She nods once, then reaches for a formal complaint form. You understand this will likely result in criminal charges against your brother? Yes. My voice doesn't waver. An hour later, I walk out with case numbers and copies of the official fraud report. The weight of the papers in my hand feels substantial, real. I've spent my life carrying other people's burdens. Today, I'm carrying proof. Detective Simmons meets me at the police station just after lunch. He's older, with weathered hands and eyes that have seen too much. We retrieved the texts from your brother's phone, he says without preamble. There's quite a history here. He slides a printout across the desk. Graham's messages to Delaney from last weekend jump out at me. Don't worry, Renata won't notice the card. She always pays. We deserve a family weekend without her hovering. She's good for something after all. I press my fingertips against the cool surface of the desk, focusing on the sensation to keep my voice steady. Thank you for confirming this. Detective Simmons watches me carefully. This kind of betrayal. It's not easy, especially from family. No, I agree. It's not. When I leave, my hands aren't trembling anymore. Next day, Grandpa Harris's apartment building hasn't changed in the 3 years since his death. The super recognizes me, offers condolences even after all this time. I tell him I need to check something in storage. Unit 12B, right? Your brother was here a couple weeks back. Nice to see you kids still checking on things. My stomach tightens. Graham was here? Sure was. Said he was picking up some family photos. The storage unit is neat, just as I left it last time. Grandpa's fishing tackle, his collection of Western paperbacks, the cardboard boxes of Christmas ornaments he insisted we keep. The antique cherry wood box that held his watch is exactly where it should be, on the middle shelf beside his service medals. I lift it carefully, already knowing what I'll find. Empty. I close my eyes briefly, feeling the smooth wood under my fingers. Grandpa had placed it in my hands on my 35th birthday. For you, Renata. The only one who visits without wanting something. The only one who listens to my stories. A folded receipt flutters from beneath the box. Hastings Pawn, dated 16 days ago. Graham's sloping handwriting on the back. $650 cash. The pawn shop is 6 blocks away, so I walk. Mr. Hastings remembers the watch. Beautiful piece. Hamilton 1954. Sold 2 weeks ago. Can't get it back now, sorry. My eyes burn as I touch the empty case one last time before tucking it into my purse. An hour later, I met my aunt. Coffee? Aunt Meredith asks when I meet her at Carter's Cafe. She looks like my father around the eyes, but there's a gentleness to her that he lacks. You look like you could use something stronger, but it's not even 3 o'clock. Coffee's fine. I settle into the booth across from her. Thank you for meeting me. She wraps her hands around her mug. I heard about what happened, with the cabin. News travels fast. Your mother called me, ranting about ungrateful children and police reports. She hesitates. Renata, I heard them planning to use your card for ATVs. I didn't say anything. I should have. The validation washes over me like warm water, loosening something tight in my chest. All these years, wondering if I was crazy, if I was imagining the pattern. Why didn't you? I ask, not accusingly. Family loyalty. She sighs. The Harris curse. We protect our own, even from each other. She reaches across the table, her hand covering mine. I've got a spare room if you need it. No strings. I look up, surprised by the unexpected offer, by the genuine support behind it. Thank you, I say, and for the first time in years, I feel what family is supposed to feel like. Next week, on Sunday, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, the folder labeled Family Financial Support clutched against my chest. The woman staring back at me looks different, somehow back straighter, jaw set, eyes clear despite the sleepless night. This ends today, I whisper to my reflection, practicing the words that have been building inside me for days. This ends today. Margaret sits on the edge of my bathtub, watching me with a mixture of pride and concern. Remember, when they try to make you the villain and they will just keep breathing. She adjusts the collar of my simple blue blouse. No reaction is sometimes the strongest statement. I nod, sliding the folder into my tote bag. I've chosen clothes that wouldn't stand out: straight-leg jeans, sensible flats, a blouse in a color that doesn't draw attention. No more dressing to impress people who never really see me. What if I lose my nerve? The question slips out before I can stop it. Margaret stands, placing her hands firmly on my shoulders. Then you look at this. She taps the corner of the folder peeking from my bag. Every receipt is a time they took from you. Every number is a boundary they crossed. You deserve better, Renata. The drive to my parents' house takes 23 minutes, the same as always. Nothing has changed in the neighborhood where I grew up. The same oak trees line the street. The same cracked sidewalk I used to ride my bike on. The same brass knocker on the red front door. But everything has changed inside me. I walk in without knowing a family tradition that suddenly feels invasive. The smell of pot roast fills the air, mixing with the pine sol my mother has used since I was a child. Sunday dinner, right on schedule. There she is, my father calls from his recliner, eyes never leaving the television screen. Thought maybe you forgot. My mother appears from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Can you help with the potatoes? They need mashing, and you always get the lumps out better than I do. Graham lounges on the couch, scrolling through his phone. He glances up briefly. Hey, did you see the scratch on my car? Some jerk in a parking lot. Gonna cost a fortune to fix. Delaney emerges from the hallway, already holding out her empty water glass for me to refill, a habit so ingrained she doesn't even ask anymore. The normalcy is surreal. Like actors hitting their marks in a play I've suddenly stopped believing in. Actually, I say, my voice coming out steadier than I expected, I need to talk to everyone. In the living room. Now. Something in my tone makes my mother pause. She exchanges a quick glance with my father, who mutes the television with obvious reluctance. Can it wait until after dinner? My mother asks. The roast will dry out. No, I answer, walking to the coffee table at the center of the room. It can't. I place the folder down with deliberate care. The sound it makes against the glass tabletop seems unnaturally loud in the sudden silence. This, I say, standing while they all remain seated, is what I've paid for in this family. I open the folder with steady hands. Inside, 5 years of receipts are organized by person color-coded tabs, separating the evidence of my invisible giving. Graham's section is the thickest, followed closely by my parents'. What is this? My father asks, leaning forward with narrowed eyes. Every loan that wasn't repaid, every emergency I covered, every vacation I funded. I turn to the last page, where a final sum is highlighted in yellow. $14,632. Graham laughs, but the sound falls flat. Always keeping score, aren't you? That's your problem, Renata. You give with one hand and hold a calculator in the other. My mother reaches for my arm. Honey, family helps family. We would do the same for you if you needed it. But I have needed it, I reply, not moving away but not leaning into her touch either. I've needed to be seen, to be included, to be respected. My father stands, color rising in his face. You've always been too sensitive, making mountains out of molehills. This is what families do, they support each other without counting pennies. Delaney's eyes fill with tears. I didn't know about the cabin, I swear. They told me you couldn't make it. Her tears would have worked on me once. Would have sent me rushing to comfort her, to smooth things over. Not today. Turn to the last tab, I say, my voice quiet but firm. My father flips to it reluctantly. His face changes as he sees the official bank letterhead. What is this? He demands, though the answer is clearly printed at the top of the page. A fraud report. I answer, watching as Graham's face drains of color. The unauthorized charges on my card, the ATVs, the cabin. The police will be contacting you directly, Graham. You wouldn't dare, my father says, taking a threatening step toward me. We're your family. She already has, Aunt Meredith says from the doorway. I hadn't heard her arrive, but her presence steadies me. I told her what I heard about the cabin plan. It's over. You had no right, my mother whispers, but I can't tell if she's speaking to me or to Aunt Meredith. I had every right, I say, picking up my bag. It was my money, my trust, my card. Graham stands, hands raised in placation. Come on, Ren, we can work this out. It was just a misunderstanding. I was going to pay you back. Like you paid me back for the DUI attorney? Or the business investment? Or the emergency root canal? I shake my head. I don't believe you anymore. I turn and walk toward the door, feeling strangely light despite the chaos erupting behind me. My mother calls my name. My father shouts something about family loyalty. Delaney sobs dramatically. But for the first time in my life, I keep walking. Aunt Meredith falls into step beside me as we head down the porch steps. Neither of us speaks until we reach my car. You did good in there, she says finally. I take a deep breath of the cool evening air. I know. And for once, I actually do. The locksmith charges me extra for the Sunday service call later that day, but I hand over my credit card without hesitation. Money well spent. All set, ma'am, he says, handing me 3 shiny new keys. Nobody's getting in unless you want them to. I watch him pack his tools with methodical precision. This stranger has given me something my family never did: respect for my boundaries. Thanks for coming on short notice, I tell him, tucking 2 keys into my wallet and hanging the third on my key rack. He nods, sensing something in my voice. Sometimes new locks are the first step to a fresh start. After he leaves, I stand in the center of my apartment, listening to the unfamiliar silence. No phone chiming with demands. No knot in my stomach anticipating the next family crisis. Just the steady tick of the kitchen clock and the soft hum of the refrigerator. Next morning, the silence breaks with my phone's vibration against the coffee table. My mother's name flashes on the screen, followed by her voicemail notification. I pour myself a cup of coffee and sit at my small dining table before pressing play. Renata Lynn Harris. Her voice trembles with righteous indignation. How could you do this to us? To your own family? After everything we've done for you? Your father hasn't slept. Delaney's been crying all night. Is this how we raised you to behave? Call me back immediately. I delete it without a twinge of remorse and sip my coffee. Black. No sugar, the way I actually prefer it. Not the cream and 2 sugars I've pretended to like at every family gathering because Mom once decided that's how I take it. Graham's message comes next, his voice unnaturally controlled. Hey, it's me. Look, this whole thing is just a misunderstanding. Call the bank and tell them it was authorized. We can work this out between us without getting others involved. Don't let this get out of hand, sis. The casual sis lands like a slap. After taking my money, my time, my dignity, he still expects me to fold. Delaney's message arrives while I'm washing my mug. You're tearing this family apart. Her voice cracks with theatrical sobs. Mom and Dad are devastated. Graham might lose his job if this goes on his record. How can you be so selfish? We're your family. I place the clean mug on the drying rack, noticing how steady my hands are. These guilt trips once would have sent me scrambling to make things right, to smooth the family waters regardless of the cost to myself. Now they sound hollow, like badly delivered lines from a community theater production I've seen too many times. My phone rings again. Detective Simmons. I answer on the second ring. Miss Harris? I have some updates if you have a moment. I do. I settle onto my couch, tucking my feet beneath me. We've filed the official fraud charges against your brother. The documentation you provided was extremely helpful. He pauses. There's something else you should know. We found evidence of other victims. The air leaves my lungs in a rush. What do you mean, other victims? Your brother appears to have used cards belonging to your aunt, your grandfather before he passed, and 2 colleagues. We're still building the case, but the pattern is consistent. I press my palm against my forehead. My grandfather too? I had no idea. Most people don't report family fraud. You are right to come forward. His voice holds no judgment, only professional certainty. We'll need you to come in tomorrow to sign some additional paperwork. After hanging up, I sit motionless, processing this new information. Graham hadn't just exploited me, he had made it a habit, a lifestyle. The scope of his betrayal stretches beyond what even I had imagined. My phone buzzes with a text from a cousin I haven't spoken to in months. Heard what's happening. Family is forever. You need to make this right. 10 minutes later, my uncle calls. I let it go to voicemail. Renata, it's Uncle Jim. Your father asked me to talk some sense into you. This isn't how we handle things in this family. We take care of our own problems. Call your dad and apologize before this gets any worse. The messages continue through the afternoon, flying monkeys dispatched to pull me back into line. Each one strengthens my resolve instead of weakening it. Evening brings a notification from social media I've been tagged in a post. My mother has shared an old family photo with a lengthy caption about supporting loved ones through mental health struggles and praying for those who lash out when in pain. The comments overflow with sympathy for her and concern for my breakdown. I close the app and block each family member methodically, one by one. With each block, my breathing comes easier. The final assault comes as I'm preparing for bed. A call from the warehouse's night supervisor. Renata, sorry to bother you at home. A man claiming to be your father showed up demanding to speak with you. Said it was a family emergency. Security escorted him out, but I thought you should know. Thank you for handling that, Jim. I'm sorry you had to deal with it. No problem. Everything okay? It will be. For the first time, I actually believe it. I sleep soundly that night, waking only once when my phone buzzes with a bank notification. A deposit, $1,300 from my parents. No message attached. The old Renata would have seen this as an olive branch, the beginning of forgiveness. The new Renata recognizes it for what it is, a transaction meant to purchase my silence and compliance. I leave the money untouched. It can sit there indefinitely. I no longer need their approval or their attempts at financial reconciliation. Morning brings an email from Graham's attorney, attempting to intimidate me into dropping charges. By afternoon, a certified letter arrives from my father's lawyer, outlining the consequences of my continued hostility, including exclusion from the family trust and future gatherings. I draft a single-sentence response. I've already been excluded. Standing at my mailbox, letter in hand, I feel the last of their control dissolve. The chains weren't just financial, they were psychological, wrapped so tightly around my sense of self that I couldn't see where they ended and I began. Now I see clearly. Now I stand free, keys to my new locks heavy in my pocket, solid and real as the boundaries I've finally learned to build. In 2 months I am going to keep this peace. The salt-kissed breeze catches my hair as I struggle with the last box from my car. 2 months have passed since I stood frozen on that empty cabin porch, and today I'm unpacking in a different world entirely. My coastal Maine cottage isn't much weathered cedar shingles, a sagging porch that faces the Atlantic, windows that stick in humid weather, but it's mine in ways my old apartment never was. I set the box labeled kitchen on the worn pine floor and step onto the porch. The ocean stretches before me, vast and constantly moving. Nothing like the mountains that witnessed my awakening. Those peaks held still, silent observers to my pain. This ocean breathes, shifts, changes, like I'm learning to do. Need a hand with anything else? Calls Meredith from the driveway. My aunt insisted on driving up from Pennsylvania to help with the move. Another box balances against her hip. Just that one, I answer, my voice carrying over the crash of waves. Then we're officially done. Working at Coastal Distribution Partners means fewer overtime hours than my old warehouse job. Less money too, but something shifted inside me after the cabin. Time suddenly became more valuable than extra dollars in an account that others drained. Inside, I run my fingers along the secondhand guitar I bought last week. The instrument waits in the corner, strings still new and tight. I haven't played since high school talent shows, before college applications and practical decisions took priority, before I understood that being useful to others had become my only purpose. "This place suits you," Meredith says, setting down the final box. Her eyes crinkle with approval. "I can actually see you here." "See me?" The phrase catches in my chest like a fishhook. That evening, after Meredith leaves for her hotel, I sit cross-legged on my porch with a mug of tea cooling beside me. My phone buzzes with a text from Dr. Winters confirming tomorrow's therapy appointment. 6 sessions in, and I'm finally beginning to understand the pattern I lived for decades. I'm learning that worth isn't measured in what you give others. I told her last week, the words feeling foreign yet true on my tongue. She nodded, her silver hair catching the light. "And what are you measuring it by now?" I couldn't answer then. Perhaps tomorrow I'll have words for the quiet strength growing inside me. My phone buzzes again. Another text, this one from Delaney. "Miss you. Starting to understand some things. Call sometime?" I set the phone down without responding. Not from anger anymore, but from a place of careful consideration. Aunt Meredith mentioned last week that Graham is doing community service. Apparently the fraud charges stuck, though the judge was lenient. My parents haven't spoken to me since I walked out of their house that Sunday. Folder of receipts left deliberately on their coffee table. I don't rush to answer Delaney. Healing happens on my timeline now. The weekend forecast calls for sunshine, and I've already booked a small cabin further up the coast just for myself. I scroll through the confirmation email, still feeling the slight thrill of spending money on my own joy without justification or apology. In my bedroom sits a folder identical to the one I left behind. I keep these receipts not as a grudge, but as a reminder. Evidence of a life spent trying to purchase love with overtime shifts and secondhand sacrifices. Rising from the porch, I step inside and face the mirror hanging in my narrow hallway. For the first time in months, perhaps years, I recognize the woman looking back. Her smile comes slowly but genuinely, reaching eyes that no longer search for approval. Tomorrow evening, I'll attend my second storytelling group at the community center. There, surrounded by neighbors who know nothing of my past, I speak words that are solely mine. No family script to follow. No expectation to fulfill. For now, though, I pick up the guitar, settling its unfamiliar weight against my body. My fingers remember more than my mind as they find chords buried under years of neglect. The sound carries through open windows to blend with waves against the shore, both of us learning new rhythms, both of us finding our way home.